in person today and those joining us at home. The UU Fellowship. The UU Fellowship of Lake Norman is an open and inclusive congregation. Our members walk diverse paths to find meaning and purpose, but we are united by our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all, and by the responsibility to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Linda Heidenberg, and I have been a member of this congregation since 2015. Our guest speaker today is Jane McAllister Pope. Nice to have you here. She had kind of short notice on this. She's retired from a long career as an editor of the Charlotte Observer. She also is an interfaith spiritual director and retreat leader, but spends most of her days helping to raise her two grandchildren. The title of her reflection is Release the Cat, Keep the Meaning. We'll find out what that means. I'm curious. Opening words, Jane?
May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Anonymous.
I don't know what to make technically. Centering you. No, chalice lighting. Oh, okay. Gee, damn, you lose your words. Okay, follow along in the program with me as we light this flaming chalice. We light the flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek.
May we be just. In our search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace.
Okay. Story for all ages. Oh, you're doing that, aren't you?
I am. And it is for all ages. But if there are any children who want to come up closer, you're welcome to. But I'm going to read a story. It's a book I really like. It's one I gave to my grandchildren. It's called Old Turtle. And it is a myth. Do you know what a myth is? No. A myth is a story that is not true. It didn't really happen as far as we know, but it's got a lot of truth in it, and it can teach us things. And it's also about arguing. Do you ever argue? Like with a brother and sister? Yeah, okay, everybody argues. My grandchildren think that the way to win an argument is to be loudest. And so their voices will rise and rise and rise, and eventually nothing gets settled. And this story is about how not to argue. Once, long, long ago, yet somehow not so very long, when all the animals and rocks and winds and waters and trees and birds and fish and all the beings of the world could speak and understand each other, there began an argument. It began softly at first, quiet as the first breeze that whispered, "He is a wind who is never still." Quiet as the stone that answered, "He is a great rock that never moves." Gentle as the mountain that rumbled, "God is a snowy peak high above the clouds." and the fish in the ocean that answered, God is a swimmer in the blue depths of the sea. No, said the star, God is a twinkling and a shining far, far away. No, replied the ant, God is a sound and a smell and a feeling who is very, very close. God, said the antelope, is a runner swift and free, who loves to leap and race with the wind. She is a great tree, murmured the willow, a part of the world, always growing and always giving. You are wrong, argued the island. God is separate and apart. God is like the shining sun far above all things, said the blue sky. No, he is a river who flows through the very heart of things, thundered the waterfall. She is a hunter, roared the lion. God is gentle, chirped the robin. He is powerful, growled the bear. And the argument grew louder and louder and louder. Stop! A new voice spoke. It rumbled loudly like thunder, and it whispered softly like butterfly sneezes. The voice seemed to come from, it seemed to come from Old Turtle. Now, Old Turtle hardly ever said anything and certainly never argued about things like God. But now Old Turtle began to speak. God is indeed deep, she said to the fish in the sea, and much higher than high, she told the mountains. He is swift and free as the wind, and still and solid as a great rock, she said to the breezes and stones. She is the life of the world, Turtle said to the willow, always close by, yet beyond the farthest twinkling light, she told the ant and the star. God is gentle and powerful, above all things and within all things. God is all that we dream of, all that we seek, said Old Turtle, all that we come from and all that we can find. God is. Old Turtle had never said so much before. All the beings of the world were surprised and became very quiet. But Old Turtle had one more thing to say. There will soon be a new family of beings in the world, she said, and they will be strange and wonderful. They will be reminders of all God is. They will come in many colors and shapes with different faces and different ways of speaking. Their thoughts will soar to the stars, but their feet will walk the earth. They will possess many powers. They will be strong, yet tender. A message of love from God to the earth and a prayer from the earth back to God. And the people came. But the people forgot. They forgot that they were a message of love and a prayer from the earth. And they began to argue about who knew God and who did not, and where God was and was not, and whether God was or was not. And often the people misused their powers and hurt one another or killed one another. And they hurt the earth until finally even the forest began to die. And the rivers and the oceans and the plants and the animals and the earth itself, because the people could not remember who they were or where God was. Until one day there came a voice like the growling of thunder and as soft as butterfly sneezes. Please stop. The voice seemed to come from the mountain, who rumbled, sometimes I see God swimming in the dark blue depths of the sea. And from the ocean who sighed, "He is often among the snow-capped peaks, reflecting the sun." From the stone who said, "I sometimes feel her breath as she blows by." And from the breeze who whispered, "I feel his still presence as I dance among the rocks." And the star said, "God is very close." And the island said, "His love touches everything." And after a long, lonesome, and scary time, the people listened and began to hear and to see God in one another and in the beauty of all the earth. And Old Turtle smiled. That's the book about Old Turtle. And you'll notice that toward the end there, they were doing something different, weren't they? They weren't just saying their own experience. They were listening to others and learning what their experience was. And that's the way to argue productively.
We'll sing the children out. Go now in peace. I think it's underneath here. Spirit of love surround everywhere, everywhere you may go. Now the music, Mike.
Good morning. It's good to be here, even if it's on short notice. There's a lot of illness going around, and fortunately, I am healthy. The story goes that a very devout man lived in a house with his wife, their son, and a much-loved cat. Every morning before sunrise, while the rest of the household slept, the man loved to crawl out of bed and light a candle and sit in deep prayer and meditation. There was just one problem. As soon as he sat to pray, the house cat would rub persistently against his legs, then jump in his lap, turn around and around restlessly, and even lick his face. This distraction distressed the man greatly. So he decided to gently tie the cat to the bedpost every morning while he prayed. The cat accepted this restraint gracefully, which suggests this is not a true story. But it is said that the solution worked very well for many years, and the man died in peace and great wisdom. The man's wife was less devout, but she knew how important her husband's morning routine was to him. Perhaps it had brought the family good fortune. So she began starting her day by tying the cat to the bedpost, lighting a candle, and quickly requesting a favorable day. Her son had no interest at all in meditation, but after she died, he continued to tie up the cat every morning for good luck. He didn't bother with a candle, much less a prayer. And so it became a family tradition, passed from generation to generation, a ritual that had lost all meaning or purpose or consequence, other than to puzzle and annoy a succession of cats. This story speaks to me. One reason is obvious. I try to make time each morning before dawn to light a candle, tap the singing bowls, and sink into blessed silence. It feels like coming home. I also have feline participants. Miss Whiskers, a sweet lap cat who curls up and purrs her prayers, and Moo, who sits at my head and occasionally digs claws into my scalp. Moo, you must know, is not averse to drawing blood. Prozac has mellowed him, but I wouldn't try the bedpost trick. But the story attracts me for another reason. It's not really about a cat interrupting meditation. It's about how the outward rituals of faith can outlive their original purpose and become themselves the point. What was the means to an end becomes the end. What is visible no longer draws nourishment from the invisible. It's as if a mighty oak tree is all branches, no roots. And that's what often happens in communities of faith. The search for meaning divides believers into two camps: those who insist on tying the cat to the bedpost, and those who ask, why? The cat binders hunger for strict, certain answers. The questioners attract the mystics, the skeptics, the iconoclasts. Oh, the questioners may still love the old stories and the old rituals, but it's because of what they point to, not because they are exclusive truth. The questioners don't confuse dogma with God in whatever way they understand God. Take Christianity, the path I'm most familiar with. Time and again, the overarching message of love and grace has been buried under the worship of tradition and scriptural literalism, not to mention the allure of secular power and control. But it's not just Christianity. The same division happens in every religion or belief system, except perhaps UU's. I'm still learning about you. One of the things I admire most about this fellowship is your statement of belief. We walk diverse paths to find meaning and purpose, but we are united by our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all and the obligation to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. Wow. I too believe that by walking diverse paths and learning from one another, deeper understanding and wiser actions will result. And yes, I'm definitely including the atheists and agnostics among you. Some books stick with you long after you've read them. One of those books for me is Life of Pi, published in 2001. If you have read it or seen the movie based on it, you know that it is about a boy from India who survives a shipwreck in the Pacific Ocean. For 227 days, Pi is stranded on a small lifeboat with a Bengal tiger. Yikes. But the book is about more than that. At heart, the book is about Pi's attempt to find meaning in his brutal circumstances. Fortunately, the boy has a knack for finding meaning. We get a glimpse into that before the shipwreck in his unusual approach to religion. Pi was raised as a Hindu, but as a young teenager, he investigates a nearby Christian church and an Islamic mosque. And to his delight, his parents' dismay, and his religious teacher's utter confusion, he joins all three. He says he, quote, just wants to love God. Pi eagerly absorbs each tradition's stories and finds joy and meaning in them all. The differences of dogma mean nothing to him. Jan Martel, who wrote Life of Pi, said in an interview on the PBS NewsHour, if you look at religion, what's remarkable is how the mystics of each religion speak the same language. So if you look at the Muslim mystics, the Sufis, if you look at Christian mystics like St. John of the Cross, and Hindu mystics, it's remarkable how they all speak the same language, which is a language of a personal relationship with God and a language of love, where God is love. It's once you get further away from the mystics that you start getting differences, which sometimes seem unbridgeable. Now, I think those unbridgeable differences, he said, are due to dogmas, and sometimes dogmas stray very far away from faith. He added that even very good ideas can be kidnapped. There is nothing in Islam, he said, that justifies killing innocent people, and yet some Muslims will do that in the name of Islam. Just as there are some Christian fundamentalists, for example, here in America, who will kill doctors who perform abortions. There's nothing in Christianity that in any way condones that. As Unitarian Universalists, you are in a position to bridge the warring divisions of faiths by being a refuge for diverse paths and for those who have been harmed on their previous paths. You can value meaning without the exclusionary doctrines. It's a great gift. Like Pi, or Old Turtle, you affirm that the sacred can be seen or experienced in many ways. Deep as the sea, higher than the highest cloud, swift and free as the wind, still and solid as a rock, close as a touch, yet beyond the farthest star, present in every act of kindness, a mystery that cannot be pinned down by Hindus, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, Christians, humanists, atheists, or even Unitarian Universalists, but whose joy can be lived. So may you listen to the earth and to one another for Old Turtle's wisdom. May you walk on sacred ground, whatever your beliefs, and may the cats be released, but the reason they were tied remembered. Talk back.
Everybody gives us a little bit of feedback onto what she's talked about. Anybody have any comments? Or I liked it because it was about a cat, and I have the best cat in the world, so I'm sure you can argue with that.
I may have the worst, but I love him anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had an experience many years ago when my children were small, and we went on a retreat, and the leader of the retreat was trying to make it experiential. And she had lashed together two big logs in the form of a cross. It's a Christian retreat. And she, when we got halfway to the lake, she brought this cross out and had gentlemen go in and get it. And her lesson was that we all carried Jesus's cross, and we, shared it together, and we shared each other's burden. And it, was a wonderful idea, but basically men in the group, they had a purpose at that point, and they grabbed this cross, and they started charging down to the river with it, and they were all showing their muscles and really into it. And what I noticed was, walking with the children, all of these small children wanted to be a part, but they couldn't reach it. They'd gotten it up too high. And I realized that so many of the rituals of the church were that way. They didn't have any real meaning, any experience of grace, but they made it too hard for people to come in and be able to know and experience what the love that was there. You had to bring it down to a low enough level that everybody could understand and feel part.
It's a wonderful observation.
Thank you, Sue. Harvey?
First of all, I'm a dog person.
It's okay.
But
I'm tolerant.
I once had a cat, and the cat, we were moving. I love this cat. This was a wonderful thing. He sat on my lap all the time. And when we were moving, he sprayed in a yard where there was a German Shepherd who snapped his neck.
Oh.
I still miss him.
Mm-hmm.
And I love your distinction between the mystic and the dogmatist.
Thanks.
Jim?
I read the other day that, I grew up as a Christian, in the story of Noah and the flood, but there's a similar story in all the religions, similar flood story in all the major religions. So there have been floods, no doubt, and people made up their own stories to go with the floods.
Because people search for meaning. There's been this horrible flood. What could it mean? And that doesn't mean you're necessarily escaping from reality. It means that you're saying, how could this fit into my view of what the world is or should be? I have no trouble with that.
Carla?
I was just talking with a friend this morning about some of our different support groups and religions that we experienced, and we were talking specifically about dogma and how we almost need a certain level of it in order to feel comforted and almost at home. And then, we talk about how we get more into extremism, not extremism necessarily, but how if there's too much dogma, then it's too rigid of practice. And then if there's not enough, we don't feel like we're getting enough substance from it. So it's just an interesting conversation to start the day.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. George?
I'm a believer in Occam's razor, which basically is that the simple explanation is normally the right one. So I always look for the simple tie-in, and you reminded me of the story of the daughter who goes to her mother and asks for directions on how to cook a roast. And the first thing she does is cut the end off. And she says, "Why do you do that?" I don't know if my mother always did that. So they go to the mom. I don't know. My mother always did that. So they go to the great-grandmother, and she says, well, I need this short pan. It's that kind of message, and I appreciate that.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think that's
So thank you so
I
much,
appreciate it.
Jane. That was a nice message. Mike's going to give us a reflection here.
I don't have many cat reflection songs. Cat Stevens maybe.
Cat Stevens, there you go.
I guess it's as good as any. I've been happily thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be someday it's gonna come. I've been smiling, dreaming about the world as one, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Out on the edge of darkness, there rides a peace train. Peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Oh, I've been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Ooh, ah, ee, ah, ah. Come on the peace train, get your bags together. Go bring your good friends too, cause it's getting nearer. Soon it will be with you. Come and join the living. It's not so far from you, and it's getting nearer. Soon it will all be true. The peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Ooh, ah, ee, ah, ooh, ah. Come on the peace train. Yes. I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? Well, on the edge of darkness, there rides a peace train. Peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Peace train sounding loud, loud on the peace train. Ooh, ah, ee, ah, ooh, ah. Come on the peace train. Jump on the peace train. Yeah, it's the peace train. And he was named Cat Stevens because he brought home stray cats all the time.
Was he really? I was wondering what you were going to do with the cat theme. Thank you, Mike. You always come up with something wonderful. And thank you, Jane, for being here. It's wonderful. Okay, gift time. It's fellowship is important to all of us. The contributions we make today allow us to sustain and grow our congregation and to reach out to our community, both nearby and the larger world. With grateful hearts, we receive these gifts. May they encourage us to live lives of integrity, compassion, and peace. Please look in your folder here as to the announcements. Because of the prevalent some variant COVID things that are out there. We're all encouraging people to wear masks here now, except for us up here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to hear us, I think. But everybody else has got a mask on, and that's it's a good thing to be safe. Please join us for to talk to each other afterwards for a little bit and meet Jane. Some of you have all met her before. She's been here several times, both as a guest and as a speaker. So it's nice. Now, closing song is number 360, which isn't far from the other one we just sang.
Side by side.
Side by side.
Can you steal your?
Yeah, you can have my thing. Put my stuff down here.
Okay, everybody help me. This is not my best tune, okay?
I don't know this song.
Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of our kinship, matters small or great. We all have purchased women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regrets, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who have gathered know each other's pain, and lift and heal us as we give we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
Closing words.
The blessing of truth be upon us, the power of love direct us and sustain us, and may the peace of this community preserve our going out and our coming in from this time forth until we meet again.
Join me in the closing words for the extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.